The grandfather clock in the foyer struck midnight, each toll reverberating through the cavernous halls of Blackwood Manor. Olivia Creed froze, paintbrush suspended mid-stroke above the canvas. There it was again, a deliberate scratching sound behind the library wall. 3 nights in a row. Same time, same place, same methodical pattern that couldn't possibly be mice. Hello? Is someone there? Her voice sounded small in the vast, empty room. Only silence answered, thick and expectant. Olivia set down her brush, heart hammering against her ribs. The mansion she'd inherited from her father just 1 week ago, 38 rooms of Victorian opulence she'd barely begun to explore, suddenly felt like a stranger watching her. She pressed her palm against the mahogany paneling where the sound had come from. The wood felt unnaturally warm beneath her fingertips, almost alive. "This is ridiculous," she whispered to herself. "You're a 34-year-old woman, not some character in a Gothic novel." But as she turned away, the scratching came again, 3 quick taps, followed by 2 slow ones. Not random. A pattern. A message. "Hey there. I'm so glad you found my story today. Where are you watching from? I hope you're somewhere cozy, because things are about to get intense. If you're enjoying this already and haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button. I post new suspenseful stories every week, and I'd love to have you join our community." Olivia's phone buzzed on the nearby table. A text from her father's attorney, Philip. Asterisk, "Found more paperwork requiring your signature. Coming by tomorrow. There are matters about your inheritance we need to discuss urgently. Things your father kept from you." Asterisk. She stared at the message, a chill crawling up her spine. What could be urgent about an inheritance already transferred? What had her father, the brilliant but reclusive inventor Werner Creed, kept from her? The scratching noise stopped abruptly. Olivia closed her eyes, inhaling the scents of lemon oil furniture polish, old books, and something else, something metallic and strange that seemed to emanate from the wall itself. When she'd left her cramped city apartment to move into her father's estate, she'd expected to find peace, space to grieve, and perhaps answers about the distant man who'd raised her alone after her mother's death. Instead, she'd found what? A haunting? A security breach? The daily FaceTime calls with her best friend Charlotte hadn't prepared her for the overwhelming isolation of living alone in this massive house. The locals in the small town treated her with wary respect, but their whispers followed her everywhere, about her father's eccentricity, his patents, his fortune. Crossing to her father's desk, Olivia pulled open the drawer where she'd found his old journals. Perhaps there was something in his meticulous handwriting that would explain the noises, something she'd overlooked. That's when she noticed it, the slight gap in the oak paneling behind his desk, where the wood grain didn't quite match. She ran her fingers along the seam and felt a faint rush of air. Pushing harder against what should have been solid wall, she gasped as a section of paneling gave way, revealing darkness beyond. Behind the walls of her father's mansion lay another world entirely, one that had been watching her all along. Olivia Creed had always been the observer, not the observed. As a forensic accountant, she'd built her career on finding patterns others missed, on tracing the invisible threads of financial misconduct through labyrinths of data. But inheriting Blackwood Manor had pulled her into the spotlight in ways that made her profoundly uncomfortable. She stood before the bathroom mirror, studying her reflection, dark circles under green eyes, her father's eyes, framed by shoulder-length auburn hair. At 34, she'd grown into the angular features that had made her an awkward teenager. Now those same sharp angles gave her a striking, if not conventionally beautiful, appearance. "You're still you," she whispered to herself. "Not Werner Creed's heiress. Just Olivia." But was that true? The weight of the inheritance pressed down on her, not just the mansion and the money, but the responsibility of her father's legacy. Werner had been a technological visionary whose breakthroughs in quantum computing and artificial intelligence had revolutionized multiple industries. The patents alone were worth billions. Olivia had never wanted any of it. She'd chosen a life deliberately opposite her father's, modest, orderly, transparent. Their relationship had been cordial but distant. She'd visited the mansion only a handful of times after leaving for college, their conversations stilted and formal. Werner had always seemed distracted, his brilliant mind elsewhere, as though she were a project he'd started but lost interest in completing. Her phone rang. Charlotte Reynolds, her best friend since college. "Tell me you're not alone in that creepy mansion tonight," Charlotte said without preamble. "I've been here a week now, and it's not creepy, it's imposing." Same difference. "Have you met anyone besides the lawyer and the housekeeper? Made any friends?" Olivia sighed. "I'm not here to make friends, Char. I'm here to settle my father's affairs." "And then what? Move back to your shoebox apartment?" "Olivia, you're literally one of the richest women in America now. You could do anything, go anywhere." "I haven't thought that far ahead." The truth was, Olivia couldn't imagine what came next. Her life had been defined by routine and purpose. Wake up, go to work, find financial discrepancies, repeat. Now she was adrift in a sea of possibility that felt more threatening than liberating. Well, think about it. And meanwhile, please tell me you're at least exploring that magnificent house. Your father was a genius. Who knows what you'll find? Olivia's thoughts returned to the hidden panel in the library. "I might have found something already." After ending the call, she returned to the library, drawn to that imperfect seam in the oak paneling. The scratching had stopped, but the mystery remained. Her father had been obsessively private, paranoid even, according to his former colleagues. What secrets had he hidden literally within the walls? If you're enjoying this mystery so far, I'd love to hear your theories in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that will keep you guessing until the very end. Growing up, Olivia had learned to be self-sufficient, to rely on no one. Her mother had died when she was 4, a car accident that had left Werner a widower and Olivia motherless. Her father had hired a succession of nannies and housekeepers, but remained emotionally absent. She'd taught herself to cook, to manage her own schedule, to solve her own problems. The skill had served her well in her career, but had left her perpetually alone. Now, standing before the hidden door in her father's study, that solitude felt suddenly dangerous. Olivia hesitated, fingers tracing the edge of the panel. What if someone was actually in there? She should call the police. But then what? "Hello, officer. I found a secret door in my mansion." They'd think she was paranoid or attention-seeking. No, this was something she needed to face herself. Drawing a deep breath, she pushed against the panel, feeling it give way on hidden hinges. The hidden door swung open, revealing a narrow passageway illuminated by strips of LED lighting embedded in the floor. Olivia stood frozen at the threshold, the air from within cool against her face. "Hello," she called, her voice barely above a whisper. Nothing. Steeling herself, she reached into her pocket for her phone and switched on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing a corridor that ran parallel to the library wall. The passage was clean, no cobwebs, no dust, meaning it had been used recently. Olivia stepped inside, the door swinging shut behind her with a soft click. Panic fluttered in her chest before she confirmed she could reopen it from this side. The corridor stretched approximately 30 feet, ending at another door, this one metal, with a keypad lock. Heart pounding, she approached it. What would be the code? She tried her father's birthday, nothing. Her birthday, still nothing. The date Werner had received his first patent. The lock remained engaged. On a hunch, she tried her mother's birthday, a date Werner had never acknowledged or discussed. The lock clicked open. Beyond the door lay a room unlike any other in the mansion. While Blackwood Manor was all Victorian grandeur and antique opulence, this space was starkly modern. White walls, concrete floor, and banks of computer equipment humming softly. 3 large monitors dominated one wall, currently dark but clearly operational. But it was the opposite wall that stole Olivia's breath. Hundreds of photographs covered it, arranged chronologically. Olivia as a child, as a teenager, as a college student, as a professional. Candid shots taken from a distance. Olivia at graduation, Olivia at her first apartment, Olivia having coffee with Charlotte last month. Beneath the photos, meticulously labeled filing cabinets lined the wall. With trembling hands, she pulled open the nearest drawer. Inside were folders organized by year, each containing detailed reports. She pulled one at random. Asterisk subject, Olivia Werner Creed. Age 19. Year 2010. Academic performance. Major change from computer science to accounting indicates shift away from father's field of interest. Maintains 3.9 GPA. Shows particular aptitude for pattern recognition and data analysis. Recommendation. Continue observation. No intervention needed at this time. Asterisk. Olivia staggered back, bile rising in her throat. Subject? Observation? Who had written these reports? Her father? She pulled file after file, each containing similar assessments of her life choices, relationships, career moves. Someone had been watching her, documenting her entire existence, as though she were a science experiment. The most recent report was dated just 3 weeks ago, after her father's death. The implications hit her like a physical blow. This wasn't just her father's surveillance. Someone else had continued it after he died. Someone who had access to the mansion. Someone who might still be here. As if triggered by her realization, the monitors on the wall suddenly flickered to life, showing security camera feeds of various rooms in the mansion, including the library she'd just left. A message appeared on the central screen. You weren't supposed to find this yet, Olivia. Her heart stopped. Then came another message. Asterisk, we need to talk. But not here. Not now. They're watching. Asterisk. Who are you? She whispered to the empty room. Asterisk, someone who knows the truth about Werner Creed. Someone who knows what you don't. Asterisk. Show yourself. Asterisk soon. First, look in the drawer marked Ethan. Asterisk. Ethan? Olivia scanned the filing cabinets until she found one with that label. Inside was a single folder containing a birth certificate. Ethan Werner Creed. Born May 15, 1985. Mother, Sophia Lane. Father, Werner Creed. For years older than her. A half-brother she'd never known existed. Another message appeared on the screen. Hello, sister. Philip Parker, her father's attorney, arrived precisely at 9 a.m. the next morning. Immaculately dressed in a charcoal suit, his silver hair perfectly styled. He looked more like a movie star playing a lawyer than an actual attorney. Olivia had barely slept, her mind racing with questions about the hidden room and the half-brother she'd never known existed. You look unwell, Miss Creed, Philip observed as she led him into the morning room. Is everything all right? I'm fine, she lied. Just still adjusting to the house. It can be overwhelming, he agreed, setting his briefcase on the antique coffee table. Your father acquired this property 25 years ago and spent a fortune renovating it to his specifications. It contains quite a few unique features. Olivia studied him. Was that a knowing glint in his eye? Did he know about the hidden room? About Ethan? What unique features? She asked carefully. Advanced security systems, primarily. Werner was protective of his privacy and his work. Philip removed several documents from his briefcase. Which brings me to why I'm here. There are aspects of your inheritance that weren't covered in the initial reading of the will, such as your father's research. The patents you've inherited are the commercial applications, but Werner's private work, his ongoing projects, those are another matter entirely. He left specific instructions about who should have access. A chill ran down Olivia's spine. And who would that be? That's what we need to discuss. He slid a document across the table. This grants access rights to Creed Technologies' secure research facility to a small team of your father's most trusted colleagues, people who have been developing his work for years. Olivia scanned the document, immediately spotting the problem. This transfers ownership of his unpublished research, not just access rights. Philip's expression didn't change, but something hardened in his eyes. A necessary legal formality. The research requires ongoing funding that would be burdensome for you to manage personally. I'll need time to review this, she said, not touching the paper. Of course, he replied smoothly, though Werner was quite clear about the urgency of continuing his work without interruption. After Philip left, Olivia returned to the hidden room, half expecting to find it gone, like a dream that vanishes in daylight. But it was still there, the monitors now dark, the files exactly as she'd left them. She began a more methodical examination of the cabinets, finding folders on Philip Parker, on Werner's former business partners, on the household staff, detailed dossiers compiled over decades. In a drawer labeled Project Legacy, she found technical documents far beyond her comprehension, diagrams of what appeared to be neural interfaces, and multiple references to something called quantum consciousness integration. I'm curious, would you sign papers giving away research you didn't understand? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this mystery has you hooked, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk, don't sign anything Parker gives you. Meet me tonight. Greenhouse at the north end of the property. Midnight. Come alone. Asterisk. Olivia stared at the message. Could it be Ethan? Should she go? It could be a trap, but staying ignorant seemed equally dangerous. She spent the afternoon exploring the mansion more thoroughly, looking for other hidden passages or rooms. In her father's bedroom, she found a safe behind a painting, a cliché that seemed beneath Werner's ingenuity. It was locked with a biometric scanner. On impulse, she pressed her hand against it. To her shock, the lock disengaged with a soft click. Inside was a single USB drive and a handwritten note. Olivia, asterisk, if you're reading this, I've failed to protect you as I'd hoped. Everything I've done, the secrets, the distance, even the surveillance, was to keep you safe from those who would use my work for purposes I cannot abide. Asterisk. Asterisk, trust no one who knew me, especially those who claim to have been in my confidence. The only person you can safely ally with is Ethan, though convincing him will be your greatest challenge. He has every reason to distrust you. Asterisk. What you'll find on this drive will seem impossible, but it is very real and very dangerous in the wrong hands. Forgive me for the father I couldn't be while trying to protect you from what I'd created. Werner. Before Olivia could process the note or examine the USB drive, she heard the distant sound of the mansion's front door opening, followed by voices. She wasn't expecting anyone. Quickly pocketing the drive and note, she closed the safe and hurried to the landing overlooking the grand foyer. Below, Philip Parker was speaking with a woman Olivia didn't recognize, tall, elegantly dressed, with a severe platinum bob. She hasn't signed yet, Philip was saying, his voice low. But she will. She has no idea what's at stake. She'd better, the woman replied. We've waited too long to let Werner's sentimental attachment to his daughter derail everything now. And if she doesn't cooperate, the woman's laugh was cold. Then we move to contingency plan B. After all, accidents happen in these old houses all the time. Olivia backed away silently, ice forming in her veins. She needed to find Ethan, and fast. Whatever secret her father had kept, it was worth killing for, and she was clearly in the way. The greenhouse stood at the far edge of the property, a Victorian glass cathedral gleaming in the moonlight. Olivia approached cautiously, the USB drive from her father's safe tucked securely in her pocket. Every shadow seemed to conceal a potential threat after overhearing Philip's conversation. The greenhouse door was unlocked. Inside, exotic plants created a humid jungle, their strange blooms luminescent in the darkness. At the center stood a man with his back to her, tall and lean, examining something on a tablet. Ethan, she ventured. He turned, and Olivia felt a jolt of recognition. Though they'd never met, his features were a masculine echo of her own, the same high cheekbones, the same penetrating green eyes. But where hers held caution, his blazed with barely contained fury. So you finally decided to acknowledge my existence, he said, his voice cold. After 39 years. I only learned about you yesterday, she replied. I found the hidden room. And you expect me to believe that? He laughed bitterly. You, who signed me away from my inheritance. Who helped Werner erase me. What are you talking about? I never signed anything. Ethan approached, tablet extended. On the screen was a legal document with her signature at the bottom, a document explicitly excluding Ethan Creed from Werner's will and corporate holdings, dated 5 years ago. That's not my signature, she said, studying it. I mean, it looks like mine, but I never signed this. I didn't even know you existed until yesterday. Convenient excuse. It's the truth. She pulled out her father's note. Read this. I found it today, along with this USB drive. Ethan took the note, skepticism etched in every line of his face. As he read, his expression shifted from disbelief to confusion. This doesn't make sense, he muttered. If Werner wanted to protect you, why keep you ignorant? And what did he need to protect you from? I was hoping you could tell me. Olivia glanced around nervously. I overheard Philip Parker talking about a contingency plan B if I don't sign over Dad's research. It sounded like a threat. It was. Ethan's voice hardened. Philip and his associates have been trying to gain control of Werner's quantum consciousness research for years. They think I've been working against them, but the truth is more complicated. He hesitated, then continued, I've been living on the property, in the old caretaker's cottage hidden in the woods, since Werner died. Before that, I worked with him in secret for almost a decade. Worked with him? On what? On the most revolutionary technology ever developed. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so like their father's that Olivia felt a pang of recognition. Werner discovered how to map human consciousness onto a quantum substrate, essentially, how to digitize the human mind. But that's just the beginning. I don't understand. Few would. The implications are profound. Imagine being able to preserve human consciousness beyond physical death. Imagine being able to enhance cognition exponentially. Now imagine what happens when that technology falls into the wrong hands. Mind control, Olivia whispered, the pieces clicking together. Among other applications, yes. Werner realized too late what he'd created. He tried to build in safeguards to ensure it could only be used ethically. That's where I came in. But why keep me in the dark? Why watch me my entire life without ever reaching out? Ethan's expression darkened. That's what I've never understood. He claimed it was for your protection, that you needed to live a normal life, unencumbered by his work. Meanwhile, I was hidden away, trained from childhood to understand his research, to carry it forward. He kept us apart deliberately, Olivia realized. Like separating encryption keys. Exactly. Neither of us has the complete picture alone. But, together. A sound from outside made them both freeze, footsteps on gravel. We need to go, Ethan whispered urgently. Now. They must have tracked you here. Who are they exactly? Philip is just a public face. Behind him is Abigail Thorne, Werner's former research partner. She helped develop the early technology, but disagreed violently with his ethical restrictions. She wants to weaponize it. As they slipped out the greenhouse's rear door, a beam of light cut through the darkness. Someone with a flashlight approaching rapidly. This way, Ethan hissed, pulling her toward the tree-line. They ran through the moonlit garden, keeping low. Olivia's heart hammered in her chest. The USB drive a heavy weight in her pocket. Whatever was on it might hold the key to understanding everything. Her father's research, his secrets, perhaps even his true relationship with both his children. Reaching the forest edge, Ethan led her along a nearly invisible path until they reached a small stone cottage, camouflaged by ivy and shadow. Inside, Olivia gasped. The cottage's rustic exterior belied its contents. Cutting-edge technology filled the space, with multiple monitors displaying security feeds from throughout the mansion and grounds. You've been watching me, she accused. I've been watching everyone, he corrected. I needed to know if you were part of their plan or just another pawn. And what did you conclude? Ethan studied her face. I'm still deciding, but that USB drive might help. Olivia pulled it from her pocket. How do we know it's safe to open? What if it contains some version of the technology you described? It won't. Not directly. Ethan gestured to a specialized computer setup in the corner. That system is air-gapped and secured. We can safely access it there. The drive contained hundreds of files, research notes, technical specifications, and video journals recorded by Werner over decades. They opened the earliest video, dated shortly after Olivia's birth. Werner's younger face filled the screen, his expression troubled. Asterisk, I've made a terrible mistake. The quantum consciousness mapping works too well. During initial testing, we discovered that consciousness, once digitized, can influence other digitized systems. In essence, a transferred mind can infect connected networks. Abigail sees this as the ultimate breakthrough. I see it as potentially catastrophic. I've hidden the key components of the technology in the most secure place I could devise, within the genetic code of my children. Asterisk. Olivia and Ethan exchanged shocked glances. Asterisk. Ethan carries the sequencing protocol for consciousness extraction. Olivia carries the safeguard limitations. Neither is active or accessible without specific triggers, but both are permanently encoded in their DNA. They are living encryption keys, the only ones who can safely unlock the technology's full potential, or destroy it completely. Asterisk. The video continued, explaining how Werner had manipulated their genetic material while they were still embryos, embedding complex biochemical markers that could be activated and read by specialized equipment. He experimented on us, Olivia whispered, horror washing over her. He turned us into weapons, Ethan added, his voice hollow. Another video showed Werner years later. Asterisk. Abigail has discovered what I've done. She wants the children, especially Olivia, who carries the crucial safeguard protocols. I've hidden Ethan where she'll never find him, but Olivia needs to remain in the open, living a normal life to avoid suspicion. I've created surveillance systems to monitor her safety from a distance. It's the only way. Asterisk. The final video was dated just weeks before Werner's death. Asterisk. My time is running out. I've detected unusual patterns in my own cognitive function, signs of early onset neurological degradation, perhaps cosmic karma for my hubris. Before the end comes, I must ensure the technology remains secured. Ethan understands the risks, but Olivia remains unaware. After my death, they must find each other. Together, they can choose humanity's path forward, implementing the technology with its ethical safeguards intact, or destroying it completely. The choice must be theirs, not Abigail's, not anyone else's. Asterisk. The screen went black, leaving Olivia and Ethan in stunned silence. He used us, Olivia finally said, her voice breaking. Our entire existence was just to serve as organic flash drives for his work. No, Ethan countered, surprising her. He could have accomplished the same security with inorganic methods. He chose us because he wanted the ethical decision to rest with beings who had humanity, who could weigh the consequences. It was a terrible kindness in its way. Before Olivia could respond, alarms blared from Ethan's security monitors. On the screens, they watched armed figures in tactical gear approaching the cottage from all directions. They found us, Ethan said grimly, and they won't take no for an answer. Dawn broke over Blackwood Manor, its first golden rays illuminating the windowless room where Olivia sat handcuffed to a steel chair. Her head throbbed where one of Abigail's men had struck her during the raid on Ethan's cottage. Of Ethan himself, she had seen nothing since their violent separation hours ago. The door opened, and Abigail Thorne entered, elegant as she'd appeared in the foyer, but now with an unmistakable aura of menace. She carried a tablet and a small medical kit. Ms. Creed, she said pleasantly, as though they were meeting for afternoon tea. I apologize for the accommodations. Had you simply signed the documents Philip presented, we could have conducted this process much more comfortably. Where's Ethan? Being prepped, as you will be. The extraction procedure is somewhat invasive, but with your cooperation, we can minimize discomfort. Olivia's blood ran cold. Extraction procedure? Did Werner's videos not explain? The genetic markers he embedded require a specific biochemical catalyst to become readable. We'll be extracting blood and cerebrospinal fluid to begin the process. And if I refuse? Abigail's smile never faltered. You misunderstand. Your consent, while preferred, is not required. The procedure will happen regardless. You worked with my father, Olivia said, trying to buy time, to understand. You helped develop this technology. Why turn against his wishes now? Because your father was a coward, Abigail snapped, her composed facade cracking momentarily. We stood at the threshold of human transcendence, and he balked. He insisted on limitations, on ethical constraints that would cripple the technology's potential. So instead, you'll what? Create a world where consciousness can be hacked, where thoughts are no longer private. Abigail leaned closer. I'll create a world where death is optional, where human intelligence can expand beyond biological constraints, where the brightest minds can live forever, guiding humanity's evolution. Starting with your mind, I assume. I've earned that right. I've dedicated my life to this work while Werner wasted decades watching over you and your brother, paralyzed by fear of what we'd created. She checked her watch. The extraction team will be here shortly. I suggest you use these final moments to make peace with your situation. After Abigail left, Olivia fought against her restraints until her wrists were raw. The room, somewhere in the mansion's lower levels, she guessed, offered no obvious escape routes. No windows, one heavy door, surveillance cameras in every corner. If you're on the edge of your seat right now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think Olivia can escape? What would you do in her situation? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that will keep you guessing. Hours passed. Olivia drifted between alertness and exhausted half-sleep, her thoughts circling back to those terrible revelations in Ethan's cottage. Her entire existence had been engineered. Every major life choice, her career path, her relationships, her future, all potentially influenced by genetic coding her father had implanted before her birth. Who was she really? What parts of her personality were truly her own? And what parts were Werner Creed's programming? The door opened again, and two figures in medical scrubs entered, pushing a gurney laden with equipment. Without speaking, they began setting up an stand and monitoring devices. You don't have to do this, Olivia said, desperation rising. Whatever Abigail's paying you, it's not worth being party to kidnapping and assault. They ignored her, methodically preparing syringes and collection vials. One approached with an antiseptic wipe, cleaning a spot on her arm for the fore insertion. The needle was centimeters from her skin when the lights went out. In the sudden darkness, Olivia heard confused exclamations, then the sounds of a brief struggle. When emergency lights flickered on seconds later, both medical technicians lay unconscious on the floor. Standing over them was a woman Olivia had never seen before, middle-aged, with silver-streaked dark hair and the focused intensity of a veteran soldier. "Can you walk?" the woman asked, already unlocking Olivia's restraints. "I think so." "Who are you?" "Diana Reeves. I work security for your father for 20 years. She helped Olivia to her feet. "We don't have much time. The backup generators will kick in soon, and they'll realize you're gone." "What about Ethan?" "Already retrieved. He's waiting at the extraction point." Diana led Olivia through service corridors she'd never seen, clearly part of the mansion's extensive hidden infrastructure. They emerged in the garage, where a nondescript van waited, its engine running. Inside, Ethan sat in the back, pale but alive, an angry bruise darkening one side of his face. "You look terrible," he said when he saw her, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. "Speaks the man with the black eye," she retorted, relief flooding through her as Diana slammed the van doors and jumped into the driver's seat. They sped away from Blackwood Manor, taking back roads through dense forest. No one spoke until they were miles away, the mansion no longer visible behind them. "Where are we going?" Olivia finally asked. "Safe house," Diana answered tersely. "One of several Werner established years ago, off the books." "You knew about all this?" "About what our father did to us." Diana's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. "I knew he was protecting you both. The specifics of the technology were beyond my clearance." "Did you know he was dying?" Ethan asked. "Before it happened?" "Yes. The neurological symptoms started about 18 months ago. He refused treatment, said it would only delay the inevitable." Diana's voice softened slightly. "He spent his final months preparing, securing funds, establishing contingency plans, recording those videos for you." "Some father," Olivia muttered, "using his own children as lab rats, then abandoning them to clean up his mess." "That's not fair," Ethan said unexpectedly. "He was trying to correct his mistake." to ensure his work couldn't be weaponized. By turning us into weapons instead. By giving us agency, Ethan countered. The final choice about the technology is ours, not his. That matters. Before Olivia could argue further, Diana cursed and hit the brakes. Ahead, blocking the narrow road, were two black SUVs. Armed figures poured out, weapons raised. Backup route, Diana muttered, throwing the van into reverse. Too late. Another vehicle appeared behind them, boxing them in. Out. Now. Diana commanded, drawing a concealed handgun. Into the trees, head east. There's a river half a mile that way. Follow it downstream to the bridge. Alternate safe house is underneath. What about you? Olivia asked. Diana's expression was grim determination. I'll buy you time. Ethan grabbed Olivia's arm, pulling her from the van as Diana fired the first shots, providing covering fire. They sprinted for the treeline as bullets splintered bark around them. They ran blindly through the forest, the sounds of gunfire fading behind them. Ethan moved with surprising speed despite his injuries, guiding Olivia through the dense undergrowth. Do you think Diana? Don't. Ethan cut her off. Focus on moving. They found the river and followed it as instructed, the rushing water masking the sounds of their passage. Neither spoke, saving their breath for the punishing pace Ethan set. By nightfall, they reached the bridge, an old stone structure spanning the river where it narrowed between rocky banks. Beneath it, hidden behind a false rock face, they found the safe house, a concrete bunker stocked with supplies, communications equipment, and weapons. Once inside, with the hidden entrance secured, Ethan collapsed onto a chair, his face gray with exhaustion and pain. You're hurt worse than you let on, Olivia observed, noticing how he cradled his ribs. Cracked ribs, probably. They weren't gentle during interrogation. Olivia found a medical kit and helped Ethan remove his shirt, revealing ugly purple bruising across his torso. As she cleaned and bandaged what she could, the reality of their situation crashed down upon her. We can't run forever, she said quietly. Abigail has resources, connections. She'll find us eventually. I know. Ethan winced as she tightened a bandage. But we have something she needs. Our DNA. Our blood. More than that. We have the knowledge of how to correctly implement the extraction process. Werner made sure neither of us had the complete picture alone, but together. Together we can activate whatever he encoded in us, Olivia finished. But should we? This technology sounds terrifying. Ethan was silent for a long moment. When I first learned what Werner had done, made me a living key to his work, I hated him. But over time, working alongside him, I began to understand the potential benefits. Properly safeguarded, this technology could end death as we know it. It could preserve the greatest minds indefinitely, allow them to continue solving humanity's most pressing problems. Or it could create digital dictators who never die, who control the very networks our world depends on, Olivia countered. That's exactly why Werner encoded the safeguard protocols in you, Ethan said softly. He knew you'd see the dangers, not just the possibilities. He trusted your ethical compass more than his own. The realization hit Olivia like a physical blow. Werner hadn't kept her at a distance because he cared less for her. He'd done it to ensure she developed independently, free from his influence, forming her own moral framework that would guide her decisions about his technology. In his way, however misguided, he'd been trying to give her the very thing Ethan had been denied, the chance to become wholly herself. The bunker's communication system suddenly crackled to life, a distress signal pulsing on one of the monitors. Diana, Ethan said, limping to the console. That's her emergency beacon. The signal was coming from Blackwood Manor. It could be a trap, Olivia warned. Almost certainly. But if there's any chance she's alive. Their eyes met in silent understanding. Diana had risked everything to save them. They couldn't abandon her. We have to go back, Olivia said, the words settling like lead in her stomach. Back to where it all began. Rain lashed against the windshield as Olivia drove the battered pickup truck they'd found in the safe house's concealed garage. Beside her, Ethan studied satellite images of Blackwood Manor on a ruggedized tablet, planning their approach. The mansion's security system has 16 blind spots Werner deliberately built in, he explained. Most are monitored by Abigail's people now, but there's one access point almost no one knows about. Almost. Diana and I are the only ones Werner trusted with complete knowledge of the mansion's architecture. Ethan zoomed in on an area behind the greenhouse. There's a maintenance tunnel here that connects to the main house's basement level. It was designed for the original coal deliveries in the 1890s, then sealed up during renovations. Werner had it secretly reopened and reinforced. You think that's where Diana is being held? In the basement. If she's still alive, yes. The lower levels contain specialized labs Werner used for his most sensitive work. Abigail would need those facilities for the extraction process she's planning. Olivia gripped the steering wheel tighter. Rain slicked roads, forcing her to drive slower than she wanted. We're walking into a trap, aren't we? Probably. But we have one advantage they don't know about. What's that? Ethan pulled something from his pocket, a small device that resembled a thumb drive with additional components attached. Werner's fail-safe. If Abigail succeeds in extracting and activating the genetic keys we carry, this can shut it all down. How does it work? It emits a specific electromagnetic pulse sequence that corrupts the quantum state of any active consciousness transfer. Essentially, it destroys the technology without harming the biological host. And Werner just gave this to you? Not exactly. I built it based on his specifications, but never told him I'd completed it. He believed such a device was theoretically possible, but too dangerous to create until absolutely necessary. Ethan's expression darkened. I disagreed. They parked the truck a mile from the property and continued on foot, using the storm as cover. The mansion loomed ahead, its Victorian towers silhouetted against flashes of lightning, windows glowing like watchful eyes. The maintenance tunnel was exactly where Ethan had indicated, its entrance concealed beneath an ornamental well in the old kitchen garden. The rusty grate yielded to their combined strength, revealing a narrow passage sloping down into darkness. Ladies first, Ethan offered with grim humor. Age before beauty, she countered, gesturing him ahead. The tunnel was claustrophobic and smelled of damp earth and decay. They moved by the light of a single small flashlight, careful to make minimal noise. After what felt like an eternity of crouching and sidling through increasingly narrow passages, they reached a metal door. This will take us into the wine cellar, Ethan whispered. From there, we can access the main laboratory complex. Any idea what we'll find on the other side? Guards, almost certainly. We'll need to be quick and quiet. The door opened with surprising ease, revealing the wine cellar, dimly lit, rows of bottles sleeping in their racks. No guards in sight. I don't like this, Olivia murmured. It's too easy. They moved cautiously through the cellar to another door, this one requiring a keycard. Ethan produced one from his pocket. Diana's, he explained. She slipped it to me during the extraction. The door opened to a sterile white corridor, the beginning of Werner's hidden laboratory complex. Still no sign of guards or personnel. Where is everyone? Olivia whispered. They got their answer as they rounded the next corner. 2 security guards lay unconscious on the floor outside a set of double doors marked primary containment. Blood pooled beneath one of them. Diana, Ethan said with certainty. She's fighting back. Beyond the doors, they found chaos. Equipment had been overturned, glass shattered across workbenches. Signs of a desperate struggle were everywhere. Blood spatter on white walls, bullet holes in monitoring equipment. In the center of the lab, Diana Reeves stood with her back to a sealed inner chamber, a pistol in each hand. Before her lay 3 more security personnel in varying states of injury. Her silver-streaked hair was matted with blood from a gash across her forehead, and she favored her left leg, but her aim remained steady as she swung toward the sound of their entrance. About time you showed up, she growled, recognition softening her stance slightly. I was beginning to think you'd run for Canada. What happened? Ethan asked, surveying the carnage. Abigail lost patience. Started the extraction process on the genetic material they already collected. It failed spectacularly. Diana nodded toward the sealed chamber behind her. She's in there now, trying to salvage what she can. The rest of her team evacuated after the initial system failure triggered containment protocols. What kind of failure? Olivia asked, dread pooling in her stomach. Diana's expression was grim. The kind that rewrites brain function. 3 researchers are dead, their minds essentially erased. Abigail connected herself directly to the system, trying to stabilize it. She linked her consciousness to an unstable quantum transfer. Ethan looked horrified. That's suicide. She was desperate. And arrogant. Diana winced, finally allowing herself to slide down the wall into a sitting position, weapons still at the ready. I managed to fight my way here during the confusion, but I can't get into the containment chamber without proper authorization. Olivia approached the chamber's observation window. Inside, Abigail Thorne sat connected to a mass of equipment, electrodes attached to her temples and spine. Her eyes were open but unseeing, her body occasionally twitching with unnatural movements. She's trapped between states, Ethan said, joining Olivia at the window. Her consciousness is partially transferred but corrupted. Without stabilization, her mind will fragment completely within hours. Can we help her? Olivia asked, surprised by her own question. Ethan and Diana stared at her. She kidnapped us, threatened us, was willing to perform invasive medical procedures without consent. Ethan reminded her. Why would you want to save her? Because we're not her, Olivia replied simply. And because she might be the only one who fully understands this technology besides us. A slow smile spread across Ethan's face. Werner was right about you. What do you mean? The safeguard protocol he encoded in you. It's not just biochemical. It's ethical. You instinctively seek balance, protection, preservation of life, even at cost to yourself. He turned to Diana. We need to get in there. The chamber requires both genetic keys to unlock during containment, Diana said. That's why I activated the emergency beacon. I needed both of you. Olivia and Ethan approached the chamber's security panel. 2 hand scanners glowed softly, waiting. Together, then? Olivia asked. Together. They placed their hands on the scanners simultaneously. The system hummed, lights flickering as it processed their genetic markers. With a soft hiss, the containment chamber unsealed. Inside, the air crackled with electromagnetic energy. Abigail's eyes snapped toward them, but it was immediately clear she wasn't fully present. Her gaze unfocused, movements jerky and uncoordinated. Fragmentation has already begun, Ethan said, moving quickly to the equipment surrounding her. Her consciousness is partially uploaded but corrupted, causing feedback loops in her biological processes. Can you stabilize her? Olivia asked. Not alone. I have the extraction protocol, but not the safeguard limitations. I need you. What do I do? Your blood, he said simply. The safeguard protocol is activated by specific enzymes in your bloodstream. We need to introduce them to the system while I recalibrate the quantum matrix. While Ethan worked, Olivia allowed Diana to draw her blood, which was then fed into Abigail's 4-line. Minutes passed in tense silence, broken only by the beeping of monitoring equipment and Ethan's occasional muttered instructions to himself. It's working, he finally said, staring at readings Olivia couldn't interpret. The safeguards are integrating with the existing transfer. Her consciousness is reintegrating. Abigail gasped suddenly, her eyes clearing. She looked around wildly, first at the equipment, then at Olivia and Ethan. What have you done? She demanded, voice raspy. Saved your life, Olivia replied. Against our better judgment. You've ruined everything, Abigail snarled. The transfer was working before you interfered. It really wasn't, Ethan contradicted. Your consciousness was fragmenting. Another hour and you'd have been brain dead, your mind scattered across disconnected quantum states. Lies. I felt it working. I was expanding, becoming more. What you felt was your mind breaking apart, Ethan said gently. The human brain isn't designed to exist partially in biological form and partially in quantum form without proper safeguards. That's what Werner discovered, what he encoded into Olivia, protection against the very experience you just had. Abigail stared at him, doubt finally creeping into her expression. If what you're saying is true, then the technology is fundamentally flawed. Not flawed, Olivia interjected. Just incomplete, without proper ethical constraints. Our father understood that power like this needs limitations, not to cripple it, but to ensure it serves humanity rather than destroying it. As the words left her mouth, Olivia realized with startling clarity that she understood Werner's vision more completely than she'd imagined possible. The ethical framework he'd sought wasn't just about preventing catastrophe. It was about defining what made consciousness valuable in the first place, the very human capacity for compassion, for choosing protection over exploitation. We can perfect this technology, she continued, surprising herself with her certainty. Not to create digital dictators or weaponize consciousness, but to preserve wisdom, to expand human potential while maintaining the ethical core of what makes us human. Abigail looked between them, calculation replacing hostility in her gaze. And what exactly are you proposing? A partnership, Ethan said, catching Olivia's meaning immediately. One with proper oversight and ethical boundaries. We have what you need to make the technology work safely. You have the expertise to implement it correctly. Under our terms, Olivia added firmly. For a long moment, Abigail was silent, weighing her options. Finally, she nodded slowly. I've dedicated my life to this work. I'd rather see it implemented with limitations than not at all. We'll need guarantees, Diana said from the doorway, her weapons still ready. Legal, financial, and personal. Of course, Abigail agreed too quickly. Olivia and Ethan exchanged glances. Neither believed Abigail's sudden cooperation, but they had achieved what they needed most, time and leverage. As they helped disconnect Abigail from the equipment, Olivia felt something shift within her, a sense of purpose crystallizing where uncertainty had reigned. She understood now why Werner had kept her separate from his work, why he'd allowed her to develop her own moral compass independently. It wasn't about protecting her from the technology. It was about protecting the technology from becoming something monstrous. And now, standing beside the half-brother she'd never known existed until days ago, she felt ready to carry that responsibility forward, to ensure their father's work served life rather than controlling it. The true legacy of Werner Creed wasn't his revolutionary technology. It was his children, finally united, ready to face whatever came next, together. 3 days after the confrontation in the lab, Olivia sat across from Abigail Thorne in Blackwood Manor's Grand Library. The formal atmosphere, all mahogany and leather, belied the tension crackling between them. Diana stood guard by the door, her injuries bandaged, but her vigilance undiminished. Ethan paced near the windows, unable to remain still. Between them, on the antique table, lay a stack of legal documents drafted by attorneys Olivia had personally selected, ones with no connection to Philip Parker. These terms are excessive, Abigail said, tapping a manicured nail against the papers. Requiring all research to pass through an independent ethics committee? Mandatory government oversight? You're hamstringing the technology's potential. We're ensuring it doesn't destroy humanity, Olivia countered calmly. Sign the agreements or face federal charges for kidnapping, assault, and corporate espionage. Abigail's smile was razor-thin. You have no proof that would stand in court. And exposing me means exposing your father's work that involved illegal human experimentation on his own children. We're aware of the complications, Ethan interjected, which is why we're offering you partnership rather than prosecution. But make no mistake, it's our only offer. The standoff lasted several tense seconds before Abigail reached for the pen. As she signed each document with practiced flourishes, Olivia felt no triumph, only grim satisfaction that one crisis had been temporarily contained. But she knew better than to trust Abigail's compliance. Where's Parker? Diana asked as Abigail set down the pen. He's been conspicuously absent since the lab incident. Philip has taken a leave of absence to address health concerns, Abigail replied smoothly. The stress of recent events has been considerable. Convenient, Ethan muttered, after Abigail departed. Escorted from the property by Diana's hand-picked security team, Olivia turned to her half-brother. She's lying about Parker. Obviously. He ran a hand through his hair, that familiar gesture, sending another pang of recognition through her. The question is what she's planning. Diana returned from seeing Abigail off, her expression grim. My contacts in Federal Intelligence have been monitoring Thorne's communications. There's been unusual activity, encrypted messages to overseas accounts, large financial transfers. She's preparing something. We need to find Parker, Olivia decided. He's the weak link in whatever they're planning. Already working on it, Diana confirmed. But there's something else we should discuss. She hesitated, uncharacteristically uncertain. Werner left contingency plans, ones I was only to enact if both of you were working together and the technology was at risk of being weaponized. What kind of contingencies? Ethan asked sharply. There's another facility. One not even Abigail knows about. It contains. She paused. It would be better to show you. 2 hours later, their small convoy arrived at what appeared to be an abandoned mining operation in the mountains 70 miles from Blackwood Manor. Diana led them through security measures, so advanced they seemed alien, biometric scanners, quantum encryption locks, and what she called consciousness pattern recognition. The facility recognizes your specific brainwave patterns, she explained as they descended in an elevator hidden within an old equipment shed. No one else can access it, not even me, without your presence. The doors opened onto a vast underground complex, gleaming white and silver, humming with power. Unlike the laboratories at the mansion, this facility appeared fully operational and completely automated. Werner called this the sanctuary, Diana said as they walked through corridors lined with technology Olivia couldn't begin to identify. It's where he conducted his most successful consciousness transfer experiments. Successful. Ethan looked shocked. He actually completed full transfers. 1. Diana led them to a central chamber dominated by a glowing blue column that stretched from floor to ceiling. His own. Olivia felt the floor tilt beneath her. What are you saying? Werner Creed isn't dead, Diana said softly. At least, not entirely. The blue column flickered, and a holographic projection appeared before them. Werner Creed, as Olivia remembered him, tall and distinguished with piercing green eyes, so like her own. Hello, Olivia. Hello, Ethan, the projection said, its voice identical to her father's. If you're seeing this, then my physical form has died, and Diana has determined it's time for us to meet properly at last. This isn't possible, Ethan whispered. We buried him. You buried my biological shell, the Werner projection corrected. But my consciousness was transferred here 6 months before my body's death. The neurological degradation I referenced was real, but it provided the perfect cover to complete my work. Olivia stared at the impossible image of her father. Why the deception? Why let us believe you were dead? Because Abigail had to believe it too, Werner, or his digital ghost, explained. She's been watching for signs that I might attempt this very solution. My physical death was necessary to divert her attention to you, to the genetic keys you carry. So you used us as bait, Ethan accused, anger evident in his voice. I used the only advantage I had, Abigail's underestimation of you both. She believed you were merely carriers of genetic information, not active partners in my work. That misconception has given us the time we needed. Time for what? Olivia demanded. The hologram gestured, and the chamber walls became transparent, revealing what lay beyond. Rows upon rows of quantum processing units, extending farther than they could see. This is the true culmination of my life's work, Werner explained. Not mere consciousness transfer, but a new framework for human cognition. One that preserves our ethical core while expanding our intellectual capacity exponentially. You built a superintelligence, Ethan realized, replacing anger. I built the foundation for one, Werner corrected. But it remains incomplete without the final components, the genetic keys you carry. Which would require our death or invasive extraction, Olivia said flatly. The hologram shook its head. No, that was Abigail's barbaric approach. There's another way, one that requires your conscious, willing participation. The keys can be activated and shared without physical harm through a process I developed here, in isolation from Abigail's influence. And then what? Ethan asked. We just trust this superintelligence you've created. It isn't yet created, Werner corrected. It would be formed from a merged consciousness of us three, father and children, creator and safeguards, united in purpose. A trinity of minds, ensuring no single perspective dominates. Olivia's mind reeled with the implications. You want us to merge our consciousness with yours? To become what exactly? Something new, the hologram admitted. Neither fully human nor fully artificial. A guardian intelligence that could guide humanity through its most dangerous transitions, climate change, artificial intelligence development, genetic engineering, with wisdom and ethical clarity. And if we refuse, Olivia asked, then I remain incomplete, a shadow of what could be. The choice must be yours, freely made. That's the final safeguard I built into this system. Diana, who had been silent throughout this exchange, finally spoke. There's something else you should know. Abigail has been developing her own version of this technology with military applications. According to my sources, they're close to deployment. Weeks, not months. What kind of military applications? Ethan asked. Consciousness weapons, Werner's projection answered grimly. Technology that can override human thought patterns, creating what amounts to cognitive puppets. Soldiers who cannot disobey, civilians who cannot resist. That's why you brought us here now, Olivia realized, looking at Diana. You believe we're out of time? Diana nodded. Philip Parker disappeared because he's overseeing the military demonstration. I've only just confirmed this. Ethan turned to Olivia, his expression intense. What do you think? I think this is insane, she admitted. Merging our consciousness with an artificial intelligence our father built? How can we possibly know what we'd become? We can't, Ethan agreed. But we know what Abigail will do with her version. The choice crystallized before them with terrible clarity. Act without complete understanding, or allow Abigail to weaponize the technology against humanity. There has to be another option, Olivia insisted. Something between merging our minds and letting Abigail win. Werner's projection watched them, saying nothing, allowing them to reach their own conclusions, as he apparently had always intended. Ethan suddenly straightened. The fail-safe device. Could we modify it to target Abigail's technology specifically? Theoretically, Werner's projection answered. But you would need access to her systems and precise knowledge of her implementation, which we don't have, Olivia said, frustration mounting. Or did they? A thought was taking shape in Olivia's mind, something about the documents Abigail had signed, about the false signature on Ethan's exclusion papers. The forged signature, she said slowly. Philip Parker forged my signature on the documents excluding Ethan from the inheritance. Yes, Ethan confirmed. What about it? Handwriting is a physical expression of neural patterns, Olivia continued, excitement building. What if our father encoded more than just genetic markers in us? What if our very mannerisms, the way we write, speak, move, are also part of the key? The Werner projection smiled, a proud, knowing smile that confirmed her suspicion before he spoke. Very good, Olivia. The genetic markers were only part of the equation. Your neural patterns, the unique way your brain processes information, that's the true key. And the legal documents Abigail just signed, Olivia pressed. They contain trigger phrases, don't they? Specific word combinations that would activate something when she read them. A backdoor, Werner confirmed. When Abigail reviewed and signed those documents, she unknowingly exposed her systems to a dormant protocol, one that would allow us remote access to her research. You manipulated us again, Ethan accused. I created an opportunity, Werner corrected, one that required your independent discovery and activation. If you hadn't made the connection yourself, the backdoor would have remained dormant. Olivia turned to Diana. Can you get us access to a secure terminal? We need to see what Abigail's been doing. Within minutes, they were gathered around a quantum-secure workstation. Ethan's fingers flew across the keyboard, implementing commands based on Werner's instructions. Security firewalls melted away as they gained access to Abigail's most protected servers. What they found confirmed their worst fears. Abigail had already initiated human testing of her consciousness override technology, with devastating results. Test subjects reduced to automatons, their autonomy completely stripped away while their bodies remained functional. The military demonstration is scheduled for tomorrow, Ethan said grimly, reading through classified communications. Special Forces operators who volunteered, believing they were testing enhanced battlefield awareness systems. We need to stop it, Olivia said. Can we use this backdoor access to disable her systems remotely? Not completely, Werner's projection answered. The systems are partially air-gapped for security, but we can introduce subtle corruptions, enough to ensure the demonstration fails catastrophically without harming the test subjects. And then what? Diana asked. Abigail will know she's been compromised. By then it won't matter, Werner said, because you'll have evidence of her illegal human experimentation to present to the proper authorities. The backdoor works both ways. It's been gathering evidence since she signed those documents. For the next several hours, they worked feverishly. Ethan implementing the technical sabotage with Werner's guidance, Olivia organizing the evidence into airtight legal cases, and Diana coordinating with her federal contacts to ensure the information reached the right people. As dawn broke, they received confirmation. The military demonstration had been canceled due to unexpected technical failures. By mid-morning, federal agents had raided Abigail's primary research facility. By afternoon, both she and Philip Parker were in custody. They had won, or at least they had prevented, the worst outcome. But the question of Werner's superintelligence project remained unresolved. You still haven't told us everything, Olivia said to her father's projection as they gathered once more in the central chamber. What happens if we agree to this merge? Do we cease to exist as individuals? Not exactly, Werner answered. Your consciousness would expand rather than dissolve. You would retain your sense of self while gaining access to a vastly larger cognitive framework. Like uploading our minds to the cloud while keeping local copies, Ethan suggested. An imperfect analogy, but close enough, Werner confirmed. You would exist simultaneously as your physical selves and as part of the merged consciousness. Olivia studied her father's face, this digital ghost that contained his memories, his personality, his essence. Despite everything, she felt she was finally seeing him clearly for the first time. A brilliant, deeply flawed man who had made terrible choices for what he believed were the right reasons. I need time, she said finally. We both do. This isn't a decision to make in the heat of crisis. The projection nodded. The sanctuary will remain secure and operational. When you're ready, whether that's days from now or years, it will be waiting. As they prepared to leave, Werner's projection spoke once more. Whatever you decide, know that I am proud of you both. Not for what I made you to be, but for who you chose to become despite my interference. For Olivia, those words contained something she'd never truly felt from her father in life. Genuine respect, not as creations or carriers of his legacy, but as people in their own right. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a beginning. Spring sunlight streamed through the tall windows of Blackwood Manor's conservatory, warming the air despite the chill that lingered outside. 3 months had passed since the confrontation at the sanctuary. 3 months of rebuilding, re-evaluating, and reconnecting. Olivia sat at a glass table surrounded by blooming orchids, reviewing the quarterly reports from the Werner Creed Foundation, the organization she and Ethan had established to guide the ethical development of their father's technology. Around her, the mansion no longer felt oppressive or alien. It had become, improbably, a home. The ethics committee approved the medical applications, Ethan announced, entering with 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Olivia before sitting across from her. Limited consciousness mapping for patients with degenerative neurological conditions. Strictly therapeutic, with all the safeguards in place. That's excellent news, Olivia said, accepting the coffee gratefully. How's the security audit coming along? Diana's team found 2 more of Abigail's backdoors and eliminated them. The systems are as secure as we can make them. He grinned. Though Diana insists nothing is ever truly hack-proof, She would know. Olivia smiled fondly, thinking of their security chief who had become something between a colleague and a surrogate parent to them both. Diana's expertise and loyalty had proven invaluable as they navigated the complicated aftermath of Abigail's arrest. The legal proceedings against Abigail Thorne and Philip Parker were moving forward, though much of the evidence had been classified for national security reasons. Their crimes, illegal human experimentation, corporate espionage, kidnapping, would ensure they remained incarcerated for decades. But the technology itself remained a complicated legacy. After much debate and soul-searching, Olivia and Ethan had decided against immediate integration with Werner's superintelligence system. Instead, they had chosen a middle path, carefully controlled development of specific applications with rigorous ethical oversight and transparent governance. "Have you visited him lately?" Ethan asked, knowing he didn't need to specify who. "Yesterday," Olivia admitted. "We talked about Mother. He's different somehow. More reflective than he ever was in life." "Digital immortality seems to provide perspective," Ethan observed wryly. "Though I'm not sure I'd want an eternity to contemplate my mistakes." They had established a communication protocol with Werner's digital consciousness, limiting direct contact to prevent undue influence while maintaining the connection. It was strange and often uncomfortable, but gradually evolving into something healing for them both. "I've been thinking about the sanctuary," Olivia said carefully. "About what it could become." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "A retirement home for digital minds?" "Something like that," she acknowledged with a small smile. Not merging with it, as he suggested, but perhaps offering the choice of continuity to others, brilliant minds facing death who could still contribute to humanity. "A digital council of elders," Ethan mused. "With proper safeguards, it could work. Though we'd need to be incredibly selective about who gets offered that option." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Charlotte, Olivia's best friend, who had become a frequent visitor to the mansion since learning the truth. "Am I interrupting secret sibling business?" she asked, dropping into a chair beside them. "Just plotting the future of human consciousness," Ethan replied with a straight face. "The usual Tuesday morning activities." Charlotte laughed, the sound brightening the already sunny room. Over the past months, she and Ethan had developed a rapport that occasionally bordered on flirtation, something Olivia found both amusing and heartening. "The gala preparations are finalized," Charlotte announced, switching to her professional event planner mode. 200 confirmed attendees, including 3 Nobel laureates, and that tech billionaire you wanted to pitch the medical initiative to. The inaugural Werner Creed Foundation Benefit Gala would formally introduce their organization to the world, presenting a carefully curated version of Werner's work focused on its humanitarian applications. "I still can't believe I agreed to this," Olivia sighed. "You know how much I hate public speaking." "You'll be magnificent," Charlotte assured her. "Besides, Ethan will be right there with you." "Sharing the spotlight with my long-lost sister," Ethan agreed, raising his coffee cup in a mock toast. From hidden away to center stage. Werner would be amused. The easy way he referenced their father, without bitterness or reverence, just acknowledgement, marked how far they'd come. The wounds hadn't fully healed, might never completely heal, but they had found a way forward that honored truth without being imprisoned by it. Later that afternoon, Olivia stood in what had been her father's study, now transformed into a shared workspace where she and Ethan often collaborated. The hidden door to the surveillance room remained, but they had repurposed the space into a secure communication center, stripped of its more unsettling elements. Diana entered, carrying a secure tablet. "The final security protocols for the sanctuary have been implemented. Access now requires both of your biometric signatures, plus mine as a fail-safe." "Thank you," Olivia said sincerely. "For everything, Diana. I don't think we could have navigated any of this without you." The older woman's expression softened slightly. "Werner may have made many mistakes, but he chose well when he trusted me to watch over you both." After Diana left, Olivia found herself drawn to the window overlooking the estate's grounds. The garden was beginning to bloom, coming back to life after a long winter. Groundskeepers, actual ones, not her secret half-brother in disguise, worked to restore the formal gardens to their former glory. If you've made it to the end of this journey with Olivia and Ethan, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you think of their decisions? Would you have merged with Werner's superintelligence? Leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that explore the boundaries between technology, family, and human identity. Ethan joined her at the window, his reflection appearing beside hers in the glass. Penny, for your thoughts? I was just thinking about identity, she said. About how much of who we are comes from our genes, how much from our choices, and how much from the stories we tell ourselves about our lives. Heavy thoughts for a Tuesday afternoon. Comes with the territory when your father encoded parts of his research into your DNA, she replied with a wry smile. True enough. Ethan was quiet for a moment before adding, for what it's worth, I think we're more than the sum of Werner's plans. Whatever he encoded in us, our choices remain our own, including the choice to work together, Olivia noted. He didn't program that. He might have hoped for it, but we chose it independently. The realization brought an unexpected sense of peace. Whatever Werner had done, whatever genetic or neurological blueprints he had embedded in them, their relationship as siblings had developed naturally, born from shared crisis, mutual respect, and gradually deepening trust. 3 months ago, Olivia had been a solitary figure, defined by routine and careful emotional distance. Now she stood as part of something larger, a family cobbled together from broken pieces, a mission that transcended personal grievance, a future with purpose and connection. The investors from Singapore are arriving tomorrow, Ethan reminded her, changing the subject. They're particularly interested in the memory preservation aspects of the technology. I'll review the presentation tonight, Olivia promised, turning from the window. But first, I think we deserve a break. Charlotte mentioned something about trying that new restaurant in town. A break sounds perfect, Ethan agreed. I'll let her know we're in. As they walked together through the mansion's grand hallways, spaces that had once felt like a museum dedicated to a father she barely knew, Olivia reflected on how completely her life had transformed. The walls that had once contained secrets now sheltered new possibilities. The legacy that had felt like a burden had become a shared responsibility, its weight distributed between shoulders strong enough to bear it. Werner Creed had designed his children to be keys to his technology. What he couldn't have engineered was their decision to become gatekeepers instead, not just of his work, but of the ethical boundaries that would ensure it served humanity rather than subjugated it. That night, dining with her half-brother and best friend in the small town that had once whispered about her father's eccentricities, Olivia felt something she had rarely experienced in her carefully controlled former life: genuine contentment. The road ahead remained complex. The technology's potential for both miracle and catastrophe would require constant vigilance. The question of whether they would eventually integrate with Werner's digital consciousness remained open. But for now, in this moment, the mansion's hidden rooms held no more terrors. The walls no longer whispered with secrets. And the legacy of Werner Creed had been transformed from a burden into a choice, one that his children made freely, together, each and every day. As she raised her glass in a toast to new beginnings, Olivia caught Ethan's eye across the table. In his gaze, she saw the same certainty she felt in her heart. Whatever came next, they would face it as they had faced everything since discovering that hidden room behind the oak paneling, not as pawns in someone else's game, but as architects of their own destiny. The echoes in the walls had finally fallen silent. What remained was the future they would build together, one conscious choice at a time.